got a few minutes further through that recording that I referred to in the last recording, which is therefore the one before it. And I read into it anticipating perhaps the outcome of that recording. I don't know yet, because I haven't got there. I'm only at about 13 minutes through, something like that. And that we are moving from a subconscious state to a superconscious state. And we're doing that via the consciousness in between the two, which is what we may in childhood perceive as our normal waking state of being predominantly preoccupied with the impressions coming from us from the immediate present external world and the body's experiences, of course, pains and comforts and discomforts and so on. So we are preoccupied with our health, how we are feeling, what we are seeing, what's happening around us in the here and now. And we're using this training medium of the conscious world now, the present, to develop us from a subconscious to a superconscious state, the state which is needed for the kingdom of heaven, to be in God's family, heavenly host, to be a joy to Him, our God, our Dad, and to all life, especially those in the kingdom of heaven, but all life, for that is our concern. We are, if you like, to be the very incarnation of the Bodhisattva. Whether in heaven or on earth, by which we mean the conscious present, or under the earth, what we have in religions inferred to as hell, which is the dream state when it can drop into complete chaos and you're just not understanding and not steering it. It's just happening to you. So, yes, to say it again, we're moving from the subconscious to the superconscious state via the medium of the conscious mind and its development towards the conscious state. The dream world, as I have more recently discovered, if you like, especially from that book, Winged Pharaoh, the dream world is helping us from the memory store, in large measure, unless we have a superconscious dream, by definition. But very often the dream world is simply the subconscious state, using the memories of the past, reforming them ideally into experiences that are to teach us and guide us and remind us of what we're at in words we can understand, which is, in other words, in terms of our past memory experiences, but trying to reveal to us, by the grace of God, guidance. So we might wake from a claustrophobic dream, say, and think, yes, I must avoid deliberately putting myself in. You may avoid lifts. I tend to, for instance, not fanatically, but I'd rather take the escalator. I'd rather take the stairs. Okay, in an emergency I might have to take a lift, but I'm very reluctant to. I don't do it lightly. And I haven't, as far as I know, been trapped ever in the lift. It's not something that's plaguing my dreams or something. But I just think to myself, well, it's not a good idea to. I avoid flying in aircraft. I'm not at all impressed that accidents don't happen. They certainly don't happen if you don't fly in the aeroplane. It's unlikely to have an aeroplane crash. I could say the same with motoring, of course. But perhaps it's more dangerous to walk on the sidewalk, and certainly more dangerous to go on your bike. Very vulnerable on a bicycle. By the way, if you do cycle, do wear very vivid colour, can you? You know, road maker's orange. So that you're very visible. At least they know if they're running you over or not then. So the dream, subconscious dream, is simply warning us from our experience. The superconscious dream warns us with values, guides us. Which way to go? The subconscious from memory can only tell us what we've done and remind us. If we apply our consciousness to that, we may decide, yes, I don't like those situations, I should avoid that, and therefore these become our values. So we can dream at night, subconscious or even superconscious dreams, usually subconscious. Well, depends what level we're at, I suppose. In the case of the lady, or the joint pharaoh, the sister of her brother who was pharaoh, and she was therefore pharaoh as well. She was being advised and trained whilst asleep by what I would take to be her chief priest, who was, understood to be an enlightened person who had these abilities to teach her in her sleep, and trained her in remembering what she had been taught in her sleep, and would check her the following morning to make sure she remembered things correctly and so on. So we can think of, our priest is the Holy Spirit. We can think of God training us with His Spirit, His Holy Spirit, directly. He is our guru, no one else, both in our sleep, guiding our subconscious dreams, that they warn us appropriately, which encourage us to change our values accordingly when we review such of our dreams, and possibly change our values by the dreams themselves at the time, although we remember or remember them not the following morning. And God also teaches us by superconscious dreams and superconscious moments when awake. But it's all to train us to move from simply experiencing the world, if we were to live in the conscious mind, simplistically, to living not in the conscious or the subconscious pure memory of how we have lived and what we have experienced, but to live in the superconscious, how we choose to live for life eternal. So we can imagine a computer. It can only churn out the memories we've given it. We put in certain data, it registers them, and it can regurgitate such whenever you call. And we can program it now to recall data in certain ways in response to certain commands from us. And then we can program it too to build certain things, to construct, and to save what it constructs and build further on it in the future. This building ability, this creative ability, potentially then, if the machine has enough capacity, can build, well, anything. Its own disaster, and it grinds to a halt, or its own eternal complexity, constrained by, we would say, the capacity we give it. Unless, of course, it starts to gain an ability to gain more capacity. It's becoming independent. Now, this independence is a threat from our point of view if it's not consistent with our values and goals. And hang on a sec. Yep. And so we might hold the machine back if we're wise until we're certain of such. And you cannot be certain of such. As far as we know, there's no certainty. It's all uncertain in this universe that we're in. But we may be in a fix, like in a war, where we need the assistance of this computer, this being, unchecked. Because the enemy is using such as well. Well, I want to pause here because I think I've got into anything that's good and lovely. Think on these things. So I'm going to stop dead here. Okay, and it might be wise to stop dead there. Thank you, Dad. Well, I've just led us into a warning, haven't I? I mean, utterly unintentionally. I had no conception of doing this when I started this recording, or the others. But there are hazards along the way in our creative experience. The atom bomb certainly looked like one of them. By the grace of God, we've survived to the present time with that one. Our genetic modification industry might be another example of potentially tremendous hazard. Whether that modification be of our plant life or our very physical life ourselves, our own body, genetic life. We are, in a sense, always perilously near the frontier of our safety. We were when we invented gunpowder, explosives, the bow and arrow even, missile throwing. Looked like a good idea to be able to throw stones at some creature in a pit to kill it and to eat it, but same could be done to human beings. That wasn't so good. What do we do about this increased ability with minimal understanding of it? Life turns out to be a struggle between what we can do and what we mustn't do, and what we seem at times to be compelled to do. And the upshot of which is we long for the goodness of God and the kingdom of heaven. And so we should. For that is the very need for which we are in this world for. You see, it's all a blessing, but not in some trivial way. In some very ultimate sense of that which is necessary, perhaps, for life eternal. Bless you. Thank you, Dan.